What if growing older isn't the real cause of aging? What if the answer has been hidden inside your cells all along?
For generations, we've thought of aging as something that simply happens with time. But modern research is revealing a very different story. Many of the changes we associate with aging actually begin deep inside our cells, often years before symptoms ever appear.
So if we want to understand healthy aging, we first need to understand what's happening at the cellular level.
Exactly. In this presentation, we'll explore the biology of aging, what today's research is teaching us, and why looking at the body as an interconnected system may change the way we think about growing older.
That's a pretty bold question. Could almost everything we've believed about aging really be incomplete?
Not wrong, just incomplete. For decades, we viewed aging as an unavoidable consequence of time. But today's research suggests there's a much deeper story unfolding inside our cells.
So the wrinkles, the loss of energy, even many chronic diseases, those may be the result, not the starting point?
Exactly. Modern aging research is shifting the focus away from the calendar and toward the biology of the cell. Once you understand what's happening there, aging begins to look very different.
Most health programs focus on one condition at a time. But what if that's looking at only part of the picture?
Heart disease, diabetes, memory loss, arthritis, fatigue, they're often treated as completely separate problems. Yet many researchers now believe these conditions share common biological pathways that begin much deeper inside the body.
So instead of chasing every branch, should we be asking what's happening at the center?
Exactly. That's the shift modern cellular biology is making. Rather than treating isolated symptoms, it asks a different question. What underlying processes are driving so many of these conditions in the first place?
So instead of thinking about these as separate diseases, what if they're different expressions of the same underlying process?
That's exactly what many researchers are beginning to explore. As our cells become less efficient at producing energy, repairing damage, managing inflammation, and communicating with one another, the effects can appear throughout the body in very different ways.
Which means two people may have completely different diagnoses, while the biology driving those conditions is surprisingly similar.
Exactly. That's why modern longevity research is increasingly focused on cellular health. By understanding the processes that accelerate cellular aging, we can begin looking beyond individual symptoms and toward the mechanisms they may share.
That seems like a small change in wording, but it's actually a completely different way of thinking, isn't it?
It is. One question focuses on the diagnosis. The other asks what may be happening inside the cells that contributed to it. That's the shift modern longevity research is making.
So instead of looking only at the outcome, we're trying to understand the biology behind it?
Exactly. When we ask why cells are losing energy, resilience, and repair capacity, we begin looking upstream. And that's where some of the most exciting discoveries in healthy aging are taking place.
We've all heard someone say, age is just a number. Is there actually some truth to that?
There is. Your chronological age tells us how many years you've been alive. Your biological age reflects how well your cells have aged during that time. And those two numbers aren't always the same.
So two people can celebrate the same 60th birthday, but their cells could tell completely different stories?
Exactly. One person's cells may function more like those of someone decades younger, while another's may show signs of accelerated aging. That's why biological age has become one of the most important concepts in longevity research.
So this is where biological age becomes personal.
Exactly. Two people can share the same birthday and the same chronological age, yet their cells may be aging at very different rates.
Which helps explain why one person stays energetic and resilient, while another develops age-related problems much earlier.
That's right. Biological age often reflects how well the body's cellular systems have been maintained over time. And that's why researchers increasingly view it as a more meaningful measure of healthy aging than the calendar alone.
One of the biggest misconceptions about aging is that the calendar tells us everything we need to know. But it doesn't. The calendar simply measures the passage of time. It tells us how many birthdays we've celebrated, not what's actually happening inside our bodies.
Your cells don't age according to the calendar. They age according to biology. The calendar can't tell us how efficiently your mitochondria produce energy, how well your DNA repairs damage, or how effectively your cells communicate, adapt to stress, and maintain normal function. Those are biological processes, not calendar events. That's why two people born on the very same day can experience dramatically different levels of health, vitality, and resilience. The calendar tells us how long we've lived. Our biology tells us how well we've lived. And understanding that distinction changes the way we think about aging.
For generations, we've measured aging one birthday at a time. Each year, another candle is added to the cake. The calendar keeps moving forward, whether our health changes or not. But biology doesn't work that way.
Your body isn't aging once a year. It's aging every single day, every hour, every minute, cell by cell. Every cell in your body is constantly producing energy, repairing damage, communicating with neighboring cells, and adapting to the demands of daily life. When those processes remain healthy, the body is generally more resilient. When they begin to decline, the effects accumulate over time, often years before symptoms become obvious. That's why modern longevity science has shifted its focus to the health of the cell. Because aging isn't defined by the number of birthdays we've celebrated. It's reflected in the condition of the trillions of cells that make us who we are. And once we understand that, we begin to see aging through an entirely different lens.
Imagine your body is a luxury automobile. Every high-performance vehicle is built from hundreds of precision-engineered systems working together. The engine, the brakes, the steering, the electrical system. When everything works together, the car performs beautifully.
But if several critical systems begin to fail, performance declines, even if the exterior still looks impressive. The human body works much the same way. We're not one organ or one pathway. We're an interconnected network of systems, working together every second of every day. When those systems function in harmony, the body is more resilient. When they don't, performance begins to decline. That's one of the central principles of longevity science. Health isn't determined by one part alone. It's the result of many systems working together.
Let's continue with our luxury automobile analogy. Imagine you're driving down the road and a warning light suddenly appears on the dashboard. Most of us wouldn't panic. We'd simply think, I should have that checked.
One warning light doesn't usually mean the entire vehicle is failing. It simply tells us one system needs attention. Our bodies often work the same way. Early in the aging process, one biological system may begin to lose efficiency while many others continue to function normally. You may not notice any obvious changes. That's because the body is remarkably good at adapting and compensating. But compensation has its limits. And as you'll see next, the picture changes when one warning light becomes many.
Now imagine getting into your car one morning, and instead of seeing one warning light, you see 14. Suddenly, it doesn't feel like a minor problem anymore.
The issue is no longer isolated. Multiple systems are signaling that they need attention. The human body often works the same way. Aging rarely affects just one biological process. Energy production may decline. DNA repair becomes less efficient. Inflammation becomes harder to regulate. Cellular communication begins to break down. These changes don't occur independently. They influence one another. That's why scientists have identified a group of biological processes that tend to change together as we age. They're known as the hallmarks of aging. Think of them as the body's biological warning lights. The more warning lights appear, the more closely we need to understand what's happening beneath the surface.
These are known as the hallmarks of aging. Think of them as the body's biological warning lights. Each one represents a different cellular process that changes as we grow older. Individually, they're important. Together, they tell the story of aging.
Some involve damage to our DNA. Others change how our genes are expressed. Some reduce our ability to produce energy. Others increase inflammation or limit the body's ability to repair itself. But none of these hallmarks acts alone. They're interconnected, influencing one another over time. That's one of the biggest shifts in modern longevity science. Researchers are no longer asking only, which disease are we treating? They're asking, which biological processes are changing? Because when we understand the biology of aging, we begin to understand why so many age-related conditions share common roots.
Now that we've seen aging as a network of interconnected biological processes, an important question naturally follows. How do we support a system that's connected rather than a single pathway?
For many years, health products have often focused on one ingredient, one pathway, or one target. There's value in understanding those individual mechanisms. But the body doesn't function one pathway at a time. Its systems are constantly communicating and working together. That's why Vale takes a systems-based approach. Instead of asking, what's the one ingredient? We ask, which cellular systems work together, and how can we support them together? Because when multiple biological systems support one another, the whole can become stronger than any single pathway alone.
One of the most important principles in biology is surprisingly simple. No system inside your body works alone. Everything is connected.
Your mitochondria produce the energy your cells need. Your DNA stores and protects your genetic blueprint. Your immune system defends and helps maintain balance. Hormones coordinate communication throughout the body. Your heart delivers oxygen and nutrients. And your brain continuously monitors and regulates it all. None of these systems operates in isolation. Each one influences the others. When one begins to struggle, the effects can spread throughout the network. That's why modern longevity science looks beyond individual pathways. It looks at the body as an interconnected biological system, because supporting the whole network can be far more powerful than focusing on just one piece of it.
One of the defining principles of systems biology is this: everything inside your body is connected. A change in one place can influence many others.
Think of your cells as part of a living network. When one important cellular process changes, the effects don't stop there. They ripple throughout the system. If energy production declines, repair becomes more difficult. Reduced repair can affect DNA integrity. Changes in DNA can influence cellular communication, immune function, and inflammation. These systems don't simply exist side by side. They're constantly interacting with one another. That's why modern longevity science has moved beyond studying isolated pathways. It seeks to understand how the entire biological network works together. Because when we understand those connections, we begin to understand the body as it truly functions, an integrated system, not a collection of separate parts.
One of the most important lessons in systems biology is this: small changes rarely stay small. They create a cascade of effects throughout the body. Like a row of dominoes, once the first one falls, the rest begin to follow.
The biology of aging often works the same way. It may begin with accumulated DNA damage. Over time, mitochondria become less efficient. Energy declines. Inflammation increases. Cellular communication becomes less effective. Stem cells lose some of their ability to repair and renew. Eventually, organs begin to function less efficiently. And only then do symptoms begin to appear. That's the important point. Symptoms are usually the last domino to fall, not the first. By the time we notice fatigue, memory changes, or joint discomfort, biological changes have often been developing quietly for years. Understanding the first domino helps us understand everything that follows.
One of the greatest challenges in healthcare is that symptoms often appear late, long before we notice pain, fatigue, memory changes, or declining performance. Biology has already been changing beneath the surface.
Our cells are remarkably resilient. They adapt. They compensate. They continue working, even under increasing stress. For years, those changes may go completely unnoticed. Eventually, however, the body's ability to compensate begins to decline. That's often when symptoms finally appear. In many cases, symptoms aren't the beginning of the story. They're the final chapter. That's why modern longevity science focuses on understanding cellular function before warning signs become obvious. The goal isn't simply to respond after something goes wrong. It's to support healthy cellular function long before symptoms appear, because by the time symptoms are visible, The biology has already been telling its story.
Throughout this presentation, we've explored what happens beneath the surface. This is where those ideas come together. Much of healthcare begins after symptoms appear. But what if we started asking an earlier question?
Instead of beginning with disease, we begin with biology. We ask how well the cells are functioning. We look at the biological systems that produce energy, repair damage, communicate, and maintain balance. The goal is to better understand the factors that influence long-term resilience. That's the philosophy behind Vale longevity. Rather than focusing only on what has already gone wrong, we believe there's value in supporting the cellular processes that help keep the body functioning well over time. It's a different perspective. Instead of reacting downstream, we begin by looking upstream.
After everything we've explored, one message stands above all the others. You cannot separate one cellular system from another. The body simply doesn't work that way.
Every cell is part of an extraordinary network of energy, communication, repair, protection, and adaptation. When one system changes, others respond. Sometimes those responses are beneficial. Sometimes they create additional stress, but they rarely remain isolated. That's why modern longevity science focuses on understanding these biological connections. Rather than viewing aging as a collection of separate problems, we now understand it as a network of interconnected cellular processes. That changes the questions we ask. How do we support cellular energy? How do we maintain healthy communication between cells? How do we promote resilience across the entire biological network? Because when you support the network, you support the whole person.
Everything we've explored leads to one fundamental principle. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. That isn't just a philosophical idea. It's how biology works.
Every cell depends on countless interactions taking place every second. Energy production, DNA repair, cellular communication, immune regulation, hormonal signaling. No single process creates health. Health emerges from many biological systems working together. Nature has always relied on synergy. The heart depends on the lungs. The brain depends on the heart. The immune system depends on healthy cellular communication. And every one of those systems depends on healthy cells. When they work together, the whole becomes greater than the sum of its parts. That's the power of synergy. And it's one of the defining principles of modern longevity science.
One of the most remarkable things about biology is this. Nature doesn't rely on isolated systems. It relies on cooperation.
Your immune system works with your hormones. Your hormones communicate with your brain. Your brain coordinates the activity of virtually every organ. Your mitochondria provide the energy that powers it all. And your DNA is constantly being repaired and protected. No single system carries the entire workload. Each one supports the others. When one system becomes stronger, others often benefit. When one begins to struggle, the effects can spread throughout the network. That's how biology works. Life is built on cooperation. And that's why supporting healthy cellular systems together makes biological sense.
If we could step inside a single living cell, we'd discover something extraordinary. Not one process, but thousands all happening at the same time.
Every second, countless pathways are communicating and coordinating their activities. Mitochondria produce energy. DNA is monitored and repaired. Proteins are built and recycled. Signals are constantly sent and received. Nutrients are delivered where they're needed. Waste is removed. None of these processes works alone. Each depends on the others. That's what makes a healthy cell. Not one successful pathway, but thousands of coordinated interactions working together. That's the essence of systems biology. Life depends on cooperation.
At this point, it's important to make a distinction. A single ingredient can absolutely be helpful, but biology rarely depends on just one pathway.
Inside every cell, thousands of biological processes work together at the same time. Energy supports repair. Repair supports communication. Communication influences immune function, hormones, and many other systems. Everything is connected. That's why researchers are increasingly interested in supporting multiple biological pathways, not just one. The goal isn't simply to affect a single target. It's to support the broader biological network. When multiple pathways are supported together, they can complement one another in ways that reflect how the body naturally functions. That's not a marketing concept. It's systems biology.
If biology works through interconnected systems, then formulation matters. It's not about using more ingredients. It's about using the right ingredients in the right way.
A thoughtful formulation begins with bioavailability. The body has to absorb and use what it's given. Dose matters too. More isn't always better. Each ingredient should have a clear scientific purpose. And perhaps most importantly, the ingredients should complement one another. Just as cells rely on multiple pathways working together, a well-designed formulation supports those pathways together. Ultimately, good formulation isn't about adding more. It's about creating combinations that work with your biology, not against it.
As we've moved through this presentation, one principle has surfaced again and again. Synergy isn't marketing. It's biology.
Life has always depended on systems working together. No cell survives through one pathway. No organ functions in isolation. Everything is connected. Everything communicates. Everything influences something else. That's the nature of living systems. Today, longevity researchers are looking beyond individual pathways. They're studying how biological systems interact and how those interactions influence resilience over time. That's the essence of systems biology. Not adding complexity, but understanding the extraordinary complexity that already exists inside every cell. Nature has always worked this way. We're simply learning to understand it better.
Over the last several slides, we've seen that biology functions as an interconnected network. Nothing inside the body works in complete isolation. So here's an important question. If biology works as a network, shouldn't the way we support it do the same?
Modern longevity science encourages us to look beyond individual pathways. It asks a broader question. How well is cellular energy being produced? How effectively are cells repairing themselves? Are communication pathways working as they should? Are the body's protective systems working together? These aren't separate questions. They're all part of the same biological conversation. When we understand biology as a network, our approach naturally becomes more comprehensive.
Once we begin thinking in terms of systems biology, our definition of support begins to change. Instead of focusing on one pathway, we begin asking what every healthy cell truly needs.
Healthy cells need energy. They need the ability to repair. They rely on clear communication. They need protection from everyday stress. And they must be able to adapt to a changing environment. None of these functions stands alone. Energy supports repair. Repair supports communication. Communication strengthens protection. Protection helps preserve resilience. Each process reinforces the others. That's what intelligent cellular support is all about. Not chasing one pathway, but supporting the fundamental needs shared by every healthy cell.
When most people think about health, they think about the outcome. Feeling well. Having energy. Living a long life. But biologically, health isn't a destination. It's an ongoing process.
Every second of every day, billions of cells perform countless tasks that keep us alive. They produce energy, repair DNA, build proteins, communicate, defend against everyday stress, remove waste, and adapt to a changing environment. These processes don't happen once. They happen continuously, every moment of every day. Cellular health isn't created by one remarkable event. It's the result of thousands of small processes working together. When those processes stay coordinated and resilient, the body has an extraordinary ability to maintain health over time. That's why longevity isn't about finding one magic answer. It's about supporting the biology that sustains life every single day.
Throughout this presentation, we've explored a different way of thinking about health and aging. We've seen that cells work together. Biological systems work together. And the body functions as one interconnected network.
That brings us to one simple conclusion. The goal isn't to chase one symptom. It's to support healthy biology. Symptoms matter. They often tell us something needs attention, but they're usually the result of biological changes that have been developing over time. When we understand that biology, we begin asking better questions. How can we support healthy cellular energy? How can we help maintain repair and communication between cells? How can we strengthen resilience across the body's interconnected systems? Those questions move us beyond simply reacting to problems. They help us support the biology that keeps the body functioning at its best. This isn't about one magic ingredient or one quick fix. It's about understanding the remarkable complexity of human biology and supporting it in a thoughtful, comprehensive way. Because when healthy biology is supported, the body is better equipped to do what it was designed to do.
When we think about making decisions, we usually think about the brain. But every cell in your body is constantly making biological decisions of its own. Not conscious decisions, but biological ones.
Each cell receives signals from its environment. It decides which genes to activate, which proteins to build, whether to produce more energy, whether DNA needs repair, whether to communicate with neighboring cells, and whether it's time to divide, adapt, or safely remove itself if it's too damaged. These microscopic decisions happen continuously, inside every cell, every day. Most of the time, we're completely unaware of them. But when those decisions are well coordinated, the body functions with remarkable precision. Energy is produced. Communication stays clear. Repair continues. And the body adapts to the challenges of daily life. That's why cellular health matters. Healthy biology is built, one cellular decision at a time.
One of the simplest ways to understand systems biology is to think about how the body is built. Everything begins with the cell.
Cells are the smallest living units of the body, but they're far from simple. Healthy cells form healthy tissues. Healthy tissues create healthy organs. Healthy organs work together as integrated biological systems. And healthy systems provide the foundation for a healthy person. Health doesn't begin at the level of the organ. It begins at the cellular level. That's why we've spent so much time talking about cellular biology throughout this presentation. If we want to support long-term health and resilience, it makes sense to begin where biology begins. At the cell. Every healthy cell strengthens the tissues around it. Healthy tissues support healthier organs. Healthy organs create more resilient systems. And resilient systems help support the health of the whole person. That's why cellular health isn't just part of longevity science. It's the foundation.
When you step back and look at everything we've discussed, one idea rises above the rest. Resilience is built, one healthy cell at a time.
Every healthy cell strengthens the tissues it becomes part of. Healthy tissues support healthy organs. Healthy organs support healthy biological systems. And healthy systems support a healthier, more resilient life. This happens quietly, every moment of every day. Cells produce energy, repair damage, communicate, adapt, and respond to the challenges of daily life. That's how resilience is built. Not through one event, not through one pathway, and not through one miracle solution, but through countless healthy cellular processes working together over time. The remarkable thing is, your body already knows how to do this. Our responsibility is simply to understand that biology and support it as wisely as we can. Because every journey toward better health begins in exactly the same place. One healthy cell.
Over the past several minutes, we've explored how the body really works. We've seen that healthy aging isn't driven by one pathway. It's the result of many biological systems working together.
That understanding became the foundation for Vale. Vale wasn't created simply to introduce another supplement. It was built around a systems biology philosophy. The idea was straightforward. If the body functions as an interconnected network, then supporting that network should be thoughtful, comprehensive, and grounded in science. Instead of asking, what single ingredient can we add? We asked, how can we support the biological systems that work together every day? That question shaped every step of the formulation process. It led us beyond isolated pathways and towards supporting energy production, cellular repair, communication, protection, and adaptation as interconnected systems. Vale wasn't built around one ingredient. It was built around the biology we've explored throughout this presentation. And that philosophy continues to guide everything we do.
Now we arrive at one of the most important ideas in this presentation. If the body functions through multiple interconnected pathways, then it makes sense to support multiple pathways together. Not because more is always better, but because biology itself is interconnected.
Cellular energy influences repair. Repair influences communication. Communication supports immune function. And together, these systems contribute to resilience. Every pathway is part of a much larger biological network. That's why we've spent so much time exploring systems biology before discussing formulation. The science comes first. The philosophy follows the science. Supporting multiple pathways isn't about doing everything. It's about recognizing that healthy cells depend on many processes working together. When those systems communicate effectively, the body is better positioned to maintain normal function and adapt to everyday challenges. That's the philosophy that shaped Vale from the beginning. Not chasing one isolated target, but respecting the remarkable interconnectedness of human biology.
As we've discussed, biology functions through interconnected systems. That understanding naturally shapes the way we think about formulation. The question isn't simply, what ingredient should we include? It's, why does it belong here?
Every ingredient should serve a clear scientific purpose. It should complement the others and support biological processes already working together inside the body. Bioavailability also matters. An ingredient has little value if the body can't effectively absorb or use it. Dose matters as well. The goal isn't the largest amount possible. It's meaningful amounts, supported by research and appropriate for their intended function. Thoughtful formulation is intentional. Each component should strengthen the overall design, creating a combination that's greater than any one ingredient alone. Ultimately, formulation begins with understanding biology. The more we learn about how cells produce energy, repair, communicate, and adapt, the better we can design formulations that reflect those same biological principles. That's why formulation should never begin with marketing. It should always begin with science.
Once we've established a system's biology philosophy, the next question becomes, how do you choose the ingredients? For us, it begins with quality. Whenever possible, we select ingredients derived from whole food sources and supported by scientific research.
Whole food sourcing reflects the complexity of nature, where nutrients exist alongside many naturally occurring compounds. Just as important is the research behind each ingredient. We ask whether credible scientific evidence supports its intended biological role. Bioavailability also matters. An ingredient is only valuable if the body can absorb it and put it to use. That's why the form of an ingredient can be just as important as the ingredient itself. Finally, every ingredient should have a clear scientific purpose. Each one should strengthen the overall formulation and complement the others, not simply add another name to the label. When quality sourcing, scientific research, bioavailability, and thoughtful design come together, the result is a formulation guided by biology instead of trends. Because good science doesn't begin by asking what's popular. It begins by asking what makes biological sense.
A thoughtful formulation is only as good as the standards behind it. That's why quality doesn't end with selecting ingredients. It extends through every step of the manufacturing process.
It begins with purity, knowing where ingredients come from, verifying their identity, and ensuring they meet rigorous quality standards before they're ever included. Manufacturing matters just as much. Even the best formulation can fall short if it isn't produced with precision and consistency. Every batch should be manufactured using well-defined quality processes, so what's on the label is what you receive. Testing is equally essential. Independent testing helps verify identity, purity, potency, and consistency. These steps aren't about marketing. They're about confidence. Confidence that the formulation reflects the science behind its design. Confidence that every ingredient meets rigorous standards. And confidence that quality has been considered from beginning to end. When science guides formulation and quality guides manufacturing, the result is a product that consistently reflects the philosophy we've discussed throughout this presentation.
By now, we've seen that the body doesn't function through one isolated pathway. It functions through an extraordinary network of interconnected systems. That's why comprehensive formulations make sense from a biological perspective. The goal isn't to influence one process. It's to thoughtfully support multiple systems working together.
Think about what happens inside a healthy cell. Energy supports repair. Repair helps protect DNA. Healthy DNA supports normal protein production. Cells communicate. The immune system responds. The body adapts. None of these processes works alone. Each one influences the others. A comprehensive formulation recognizes that reality. It isn't about adding more ingredients. It's about selecting ingredients with complementary roles that reflect how biology actually works. When science guides the formulation, when every ingredient has a purpose, and when multiple pathways are considered together, the result is an approach that reflects the remarkable complexity of the human body. Because comprehensive formulations aren't just about what's in the bottle. They're about respecting the biology they're designed to support.
As we come to the end of this discussion, let's bring everything together. We began with a simple question. Why do we age? That question led us into the remarkable world inside every cell. Along the way, we discovered that biological age can be very different from chronological age. And we saw that the body isn't a collection of independent parts. It's an interconnected network working together.
We explored the importance of synergy, the value of supporting multiple pathways, and why thoughtful formulation, quality sourcing, scientific rationale, and rigorous manufacturing all matter. Together, these ideas point to one central principle. Healthy aging isn't built on one pathway. It isn't built on one ingredient. It's built by supporting healthy cellular function. Healthy cells become healthy tissues. Healthy tissues become healthy organs. Healthy organs work together as healthy systems. And healthy systems provide the foundation for lifelong resilience. That's the philosophy we've shared today. Not because biology is simple, but because it's beautifully complex. The better we understand that complexity, the better decisions we can make to support our health. And that may be one of the most important lessons longevity science has to offer.
As we look ahead, I believe the future of longevity is becoming increasingly clear. We're moving beyond a one-size-fits-all approach to health. Instead, we're entering an era where science is helping us better understand the unique biology of every individual. That future begins with systems biology. Rather than viewing the body as separate parts, systems biology recognizes that our cells, tissues, organs, and biological pathways are constantly communicating and influencing one another.
The next step is precision nutrition. As our understanding of biology continues to grow, nutrition becomes more intentional. Choosing the right nutrients, in the right forms, at meaningful levels, to support the body's natural biological processes. Ultimately, the goal is cellular resilience. Healthy cells produce energy, repair damage, adapt to stress, communicate effectively, and help maintain the health of the entire body. When we support those natural processes, we aren't trying to redesign human biology. We're working in harmony with it. The science of longevity is still evolving. Every year, researchers uncover new insights into how cells age, adapt, and recover. It's an exciting time, not because we have all the answers, but because we're asking better questions. And every better question brings us one step closer to helping people live healthier, more resilient lives. The future of longevity isn't just about living longer. It's about living better.
The future of longevity isn't about searching for a miracle. It's about understanding biology, respecting its remarkable complexity, and making informed decisions that help support the incredible design of the human body.
Because healthy aging doesn't begin with a calendar. It begins with healthy cells.
Thank you for being part of this journey today. I hope this presentation has provided a different way of thinking about aging, not as something that simply happens to us, but as a biological process that we can better understand through science. We've explored how healthy aging begins at the cellular level, how the body's systems are deeply interconnected, and why supporting those systems thoughtfully may play an important role in long-term resilience and health span.
The field of longevity science is advancing rapidly. With every new discovery, we gain a deeper appreciation for the remarkable intelligence and complexity of the human body. While there is still much to learn, one thing is becoming increasingly clear. Healthy cells are the foundation of healthy tissues. Healthy tissues support healthy organs. Healthy organs sustain healthy biological systems. And healthy biological systems help us live healthier, more resilient lives. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. And most of all, thank you for your commitment to learning more about the science of healthy aging. We'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. Call us at 1-888-288-1892. 1-888-288-1892.